There is a stirring in you today that you may not fully understand, and I want to speak to that stirring directly. You were not made to move through life unnoticed, unheard, or unused. Something in you has been waking up slowly, quietly, over months or even years, and today it is asking you to pay attention. This is not about perfection. It never was. You have made mistakes, you have doubted yourself, you have wondered on more than one occasion whether you were really cut out for the things you hoped for. And still, here you are. Still standing. Still reaching. That alone tells you something about the kind of person you are. Growth rarely looks the way we expect it to. Most of us imagine transformation as a single dramatic moment, a lightning strike of clarity that changes everything overnight. But in reality, transformation is almost always slow, built from 1,000 small choices that no one else sees. It's the choice to get up on the hard mornings. It's the choice to keep showing up for people even when you're tired. It's the choice to be honest with yourself about what isn't working, even when it would be easier to pretend. Every one of those choices has been quietly building something in you, a kind of strength that doesn't announce itself, but that others can feel when they're around you. Think back on the hardest seasons of your life. The ones that felt unfair, disproportionate, like more than you should have had to carry. It's tempting to see those seasons only as loss, time you'll never get back, energy you'll never recover. But there is another way to look at them. Difficulty, when we let it, teaches us things that comfort never can. It teaches patience. It teaches humility. It teaches us what we're actually capable of enduring, which is almost always more than we believed going in. None of this means suffering is good, or that you should seek it out, or that everything happens for some tidy, satisfying reason. Sometimes hard things are simply hard, and the honest thing to do is acknowledge that rather than dress it up. But it is also true that people who have been through difficulty often develop a steadiness that shows up later, in the moments that matter most. You may be someone others lean on without fully realizing it. Maybe a friend calls you first when something goes wrong. Maybe a coworker trusts you with information they wouldn't share with everyone. Maybe someone in your family has quietly come to depend on your steadiness during their own hard seasons. If that's true for you, it isn't an accident, and it isn't a burden you have to carry alone or silently. It's worth noticing, and it's worth being honest with yourself about how it feels, whether it energizes you or exhausts you, whether the relationship is reciprocal or one-sided. Being trusted is a real thing, and real things deserve real reflection, not just quiet endurance. There's a particular kind of fear that shows up right before growth, a mix of excitement and dread that can be hard to separate. You might feel it as a tightness in your chest, a restlessness you can't quite name, a sense that something is about to shift even though nothing has visibly changed yet. That feeling is worth paying attention to, not because it's mystical, but because it's often a signal that you're standing at the edge of a decision. Maybe it's a job you've been afraid to leave. Maybe it's a relationship you've been afraid to have an honest conversation about. Maybe it's a version of yourself you've been afraid to become because it means letting go of an old, more familiar version. Fear like that isn't always a warning to stop. Sometimes it's simply what growth feels like from the inside. It's worth naming something plainly. You are not chosen in the sense of being owed anything, or exempt from difficulty, or destined for outcomes you haven't worked toward. Life doesn't operate that way, and content that tells you otherwise, that promises certainty or ease or guaranteed rewards if you just believe hard enough, is usually trying to sell you something, literally or figuratively. What is true, though, is that you have agency. You have the capacity to build a life with intention, to treat people with care, to keep learning, and to become someone whose word means something. That is not magic, it's work. But it's real, and it's available to you regardless of where you're starting from. If you felt isolated lately, even while surrounded by people, that experience is worth taking seriously rather than romanticizing. Loneliness in a crowd is common, and it usually points to something specific. A mismatch between who you are and who you feel you have to be around certain people. Or a season where you've been giving more than you've been receiving. The answer isn't always more connection with more people. Sometimes it's fewer, deeper connections with people who see you clearly. It's worth asking yourself honestly which relationships in your life feel mutual, and which ones have quietly become one-directional. That kind of honest inventory is uncomfortable, but it's far more useful than waiting for a vague feeling of being chosen to resolve the discomfort for you. There is real value in sitting with uncertainty instead of rushing to explain it away. Not every unresolved feeling needs an immediate story wrapped around it. When you notice unease, curiosity, or longing, you can simply notice it, ask what it might be pointing to, without needing to decide in the same moment. Clarity tends to come from patient attention, not from forcing an answer. This applies to big questions too. What you want from your work, what you want from your relationships, what kind of person you're trying to become. These questions deserve time. They deserve honest conversations with people you trust, and probably a professional's perspective too, if the questions are heavy enough. There's no shortcut that replaces that kind of slow, deliberate reflection. If you're carrying weight for someone else right now, a friend going through a hard time, a family member who leans on you, a partner navigating something difficult, it's worth remembering that supporting someone well doesn't require you to have all the answers. It requires presence, honesty, and boundaries. You can care about someone deeply and still tell them the truth when they need to hear it. You can be reliable without being endlessly available. In fact, the people who are best at showing up for others long-term are usually the ones who've learned to protect their own capacity, because burnout helps no one. If you've been running on empty trying to be everything for everyone, that's not strength. It's a sign that something needs to change, and it's okay to make that change. Strength, the kind that actually holds up over time, doesn't look like never struggling. It looks like being honest about struggle while still moving forward. It looks like asking for help when you need it. It looks like admitting when you were wrong and repairing what you can. It looks like showing up on ordinary days, not just the dramatic ones. If you've been quietly doing that, showing up, telling the truth, trying again after setbacks, then whatever comes next, you're more prepared for it than you think. Not because of destiny, but because of the habits you've already built. As for what's ahead, no one can promise you a specific outcome, and anyone who claims to know your future with certainty is either guessing or trying to manipulate you. What can be said honestly is this: the way you've been showing up matters. The care you've put into your relationships, the effort you've put into your work, the discipline you've built in quiet moments when no one was watching, none of that disappears. It compounds. It shapes who you become and what you're capable of handling. That's not a guarantee of ease. It's a foundation for resilience. If you take one thing from this, let it be permission. Permission to trust your own judgment more, to stop waiting for someone or something external to validate what you already sense is true, and to make decisions based on your actual values rather than fear or urgency. You don't need a sign. You don't need someone else's approval. You need honest reflection, people in your life who tell you the truth, and the willingness to keep going even when things are unclear. That's not a formula for a perfect life. It's simply what it looks like to keep growing, one deliberate choice at a time. There's something else worth talking about, honestly: the difference between confidence and certainty. A lot of people wait to feel certain before they act, certain they're making the right choice, certain the outcome will be good, certain they won't regret it. But certainty like that almost never arrives in advance. It's built afterward through experience, not handed to you beforehand as a feeling you can wait for. Confidence is different. Confidence is the willingness to act well even without certainty, because you trust your own ability to handle whatever comes next, including the possibility that things don't go as planned. If you've been waiting to feel completely sure before making a move, changing jobs, ending a relationship that isn't working, starting something new, it might help to recognize that the certainty you're waiting for was never going to show up first. It shows up after, as a result of having acted. It's also worth talking honestly about setbacks, because most content in this genre skips past them entirely, as if growth is a straight line upward once you wake up, or get chosen, or unlock some secret. It isn't. Setbacks are a normal, expected part of building anything worthwhile: a career, a relationship, a sense of self. You will make decisions that don't work out. You will misjudge situations. You will occasionally hurt people you didn't mean to hurt, or trust people who didn't deserve it, or work hard towards something that doesn't pan out. None of that erases the progress you've made. The measure of a person isn't whether they avoid setbacks, nobody does. It's what they do afterward. Do they get honest about what happened? Do they learn something real from it, not just a comforting story? Do they try again differently, informed by what they now know? That pattern, repeated over years, is what actually builds a life you can be proud of. It's slower and less dramatic than the idea of being chosen, but it's real, and it's yours. Trust, both giving it and receiving it, deserves more careful thought than it usually gets. It's easy to talk about trust in vague, warm terms, but trust that actually holds up is built on specifics, consistency over time, honesty even when it's inconvenient, and follow-through on what you say you'll do. If you want people to trust you more, the answer isn't to wait for them to sense some quality in you from a distance. It's to be reliable in small, repeated ways, showing up on time, doing what you said you'd do, telling the truth even when a comfortable lie would be easier. Trust built that way is sturdy. It doesn't depend on someone else's mood or on a feeling either of you had in a particular moment. And if you're the one extending trust to someone else, it's worth checking that your trust is actually earned by their behavior, not just given because you want to believe in them. Hope is not the same thing as evidence, and conflating the two is how people end up disappointed or hurt. There's a particular trap worth naming directly because it shows up constantly in content that talks about being chosen or destined or on the verge of a breakthrough. The trap of interpreting every random event as a personal sign. Life is full of coincidences. That's simply how probability works when you're paying close attention to your own life and looking for patterns. Seeing a certain number repeatedly, running into someone unexpectedly, having a strange dream the same week something changes, these things happen constantly, to everyone, and our brains are wired to notice and remember the ones that feel meaningful while forgetting the hundreds that didn't. That doesn't mean your life lacks meaning. It means meaning is something you build through your choices and relationships, not something you discover hidden in coincidences. Leaning too hard on signs can actually get in the way of clear thinking because it lets you avoid making a real decision by waiting for the universe to make it for you instead. The same honesty is worth applying to yourself. If you've noticed that you tend to take on more emotional weight than is sustainable, fixing things for others, absorbing their stress, feeling responsible for outcomes that aren't actually yours to control, that pattern is worth examining rather than simply accepting as your role or your calling. Being a steady, dependable person is a genuine strength, but there's a difference between being steady and being unable to say no. If you find yourself constantly stretched thin, that's not a sign you've been chosen for something greater. It's a sign that your boundaries need attention. Learning to say no, to ask for help, and to let other people handle their own difficulties sometimes isn't a failure of character. It's part of building a sustainable life. One more thing worth saying plainly, because it matters more than almost anything else in this kind of reflection. Be wary of anyone or anything that tells you certainty, breakthrough, or transformation is available if you just act quickly enough, click a link, type a word, or believe hard enough without doing anything else. Urgency is one of the oldest manipulation tools there is, precisely because it works. It short-circuits careful thinking and pushes people toward decisions they wouldn't make with more time to reflect. Anything genuinely valuable in your life, a skill, a relationship, a sense of purpose, financial stability, is built slowly, through consistent effort, not unlocked instantly through a ritual, a secret, or a single dramatic moment. If a message makes you feel like you have to act right now or you'll miss something forever, that's worth treating as a red flag, not a sign of authenticity. There's a question worth sitting with honestly. Why do messages promising you're chosen or on the verge of a secret breakthrough feel so appealing in the first place? It's not because you're gullible. It's because they speak to something real, a genuine desire to matter, to be seen, to know that your life has weight and direction. That desire isn't a flaw. It's one of the most human things about you. The problem isn't the longing itself. It's that content designed to exploit that longing offers a shortcut, a feeling of significance without the actual work of building a significant life. Recognizing that difference is useful because it means you can keep the honest desire to matter, to grow, to be trusted, while discarding the manipulative packaging it often comes wrapped in. Money and material stability deserve a direct, unglamorous mention here too, since a lot of manipulative content specifically targets financial anxiety by promising shortcuts, a hidden ritual, a secret method, a brainwave technique that unlocks wealth. There is no such shortcut. Financial stability for the overwhelming majority of people comes from ordinary, unglamorous practices. Spending less than you earn, building savings even in small amounts, avoiding debt where possible, and making deliberate decisions about income and expenses over years, not days. If you're dealing with financial stress, the most useful thing you can do is look at your actual numbers honestly. And if it's overwhelming, talk to a real financial counselor or advisor rather than searching for a secret. Anyone promising financial transformation through a ritual, a hidden discovery, or a countdown before a page disappears is using fear and urgency to bypass your judgment, not offering you real help. It's worth returning to the idea of unseen forces acting on your behalf, because there's a distinction worth drawing out. It's true that other people, family, friends, even strangers, sometimes act in your favor in ways you don't fully see. A colleague who mentions you for an opportunity, a friend who quietly checks in during a hard week, a mentor who gives you honest feedback that stings but helps. That kind of support is real, and it's worth being grateful for it and, when possible, thanking the people responsible directly rather than attributing it to some vague, unseen force. But the idea that unnamed forces are actively battling on your behalf, clearing obstacles you can't see, tends to function less as comfort and more as a way of avoiding responsibility for the parts of your life that are actually within your control. You can hold both truths at once, that you sometimes benefit from things outside your control, and that the bulk of your outcomes still depend on the decisions you make and the effort you put in. If you've been feeling a pull toward change but haven't acted on it yet, it can help to get specific rather than staying in the realm of vague feeling. Instead of waiting for a sense of being chosen or ready, try naming the actual decision in front of you. Is it a conversation you need to have? A habit you want to build or break? A relationship you need to reconsider? A skill you want to start learning? Vague longing rarely resolves itself, but a specific, named decision can actually be acted on. Even a small first step, sending the message, signing up for the class, having the conversation, does more to move your life forward than any amount of waiting for a sign. Finally, it's worth acknowledging that not every difficult season has a lesson wrapped neatly inside it, and that's all right. Some hardship is simply hard, without hidden meaning or grand purpose behind it. Insisting that everything happens for a reason can sometimes become its own kind of pressure, a demand that you extract wisdom from experiences that were simply painful. You're allowed to say that something was just hard, that it didn't teach you anything you're grateful for, and that you're still glad it's over. Growth doesn't require finding a silver lining in every single experience. Sometimes growth just means getting through something and continuing to live your life afterward with honesty about what it cost you. What all of this points toward isn't a dramatic revelation or a single moment where everything becomes clear. It's a way of living that's steadier, more honest, and more sustainable than what quick-fix content usually offers. Paying attention to your actual life rather than waiting for signs. Being honest with yourself and the people around you. Building trust through consistency rather than hoping for it to appear. And making decisions based on your values rather than urgency or fear. That kind of life doesn't come with a countdown or a disappearing link. It's available to you steadily, through the ordinary choices you make starting today. And it doesn't depend on being chosen by anyone, only on choosing, again and again, to keep showing up for your own life.